To add a little bit of dirt and grunge to this, I've opened up a couple of grunge maps here. That one's not bad. This one's pretty good. So I think I'll use maybe a combination of these two. I've gone ahead and added a little bit of texture for that handle. And now we can go ahead and just grab one of these grunge maps. I'll work with this one here. I'll copy it. I'll paste it. And let's just take this, and I'm just going to stretch this kind of to have it be the size of the map, right about here, like that. And then I will take the opacity down a bit, like this. And I'll also change the blend mode from normal to multiply right here. See how that works. And that's looking pretty gross. That's not bad. Okay. I think that may be a bit too much on the countertops. We'll have to see about that. Maybe I can bring the opacity down just a little bit more like that. Yeah, let's try that. Let's try something like 25 here. And then let's grab this other grunge map. I'll hit the M key for marquee select and just kind of drag an area. I don't think I want this big splotch, but everything else looks pretty good to me. I'll just drag that area, copy that, and then I'll paste it here as well. And this, I'll begin by trying to just stretch it over the whole thing. We'll see how this works. I may have to try and tile it, but maybe this will work. I'll switch its blending mode to multiply as well. Take the opacity down to maybe 25 as well. That's not bad. That's looking relatively gross. Let's give this a try and see how it looks. So I'll export, and I'll save it out and go ahead and overwrite that color map that we created earlier. Here in Blender, I'll go ahead and bring that in again. Go to my kitchen folder, grab that color map, and open it up. And there we go. That's looking pretty gross. I have to admit, I would not want to eat dinner there. So I think that'll work. The countertops, I'm going to have junk on them, I think, like plates and trash, things like that. Not a whole lot, but just enough to cover up some of that. Yeah, so I think that'll work. Let's go back and clean that texture map up now. I'll hide these layers, and I'll go ahead and combine these two, the grunge layers, and just call them grunge. I will need to change that back to multiply, won't I? Let me make sure that's going to look okay. Yeah, that's right. Now that I've combined those two into one layer, the grunge, I need to combine the UV maps into one now. So I'll select those two and Control Command E to combine those. Now I can go back to my magic wand tool and begin selecting around here so that we can delete the grunge that we don't need that's extending out beyond the actual texture islands. So it looks like I got them all there. I'll go ahead and contract the selection by 2 pixels. Then I'll choose the grunge. There it is. Hit delete. There we go. Now I can take everything and export this UV map. So I will export. Now over here in Blender, I'll bring it in one last time just to check it. And there we go. Now, let's deal with this handle here. Remember I said that we only needed to do this one time because every handle we duplicate off of this is going to just sit right underneath this UV map. So they'll all have the same texture, and that's okay because it's such a small part in the scene. But let me go ahead and press the L key to select it. And now maybe I can hit Control 1 and 5, and I'll also hit the Z key. And let's just begin putting these in place. So I'll press Shift D and X and just begin moving these where they need to go. I've duplicated this one, and I'm just going to move it over here and rotate it with R90, and then move it into place here. Duplicate it and move it in the X and say get it right about here. Now I can hit the L key and select this one as well and begin duplicating these and moving them into place on the cabinets here. So duplicate that and move this up. Maybe they're going to be like down here, like this. And then maybe we only need one for this cabinet. So I'll just hover over this one and hit the L key, duplicate it, and we'll maybe put it right here. So now you can see that even though we've duplicated those all over, it's all still only being represented in the UV map by one UV island. So I think now we're about ready to export these out of Blender and take them into Unity. However, they're still all one material, right? It's all one object, and that's fine. But the problem is we've got all one material. And we're going to want to be able to differentiate the different areas by different materials in Unity. So I think we need a material for the wood, a material for the counters, and a material for all the handles. So for the countertops, let's tab into edit mode, and I'll just hover over this and press the L key, and I've got it delimited by the normals, which means it'll select everything even though there are seams there. And I'll do that with the backsplashes and that countertop. So let's give this a material. Let's just call these countertops. I'll click the plus button up here, click new, and we'll call this countertop. Okay. And we need to click assign, right? Okay, so we already have the cabinets. That's fine. We just need these handles now. So let's go ahead and grab these. Now I could go through and hit L and select each one of these. Another way to do it is I could maybe select it in here that would catch all of those. So if I click this little button here, and then what I could do is hit the B key for border select and border select all of this right there. And that selects all of them in the 3D view as well. So now I can hit the plus button over here, new material. We'll call this cabinet handles. There we go. And assign. Now we should have, if we hit cabinets here, we can select them, and there they are, and deselect. Countertop, select. Deselect, and handles. Good. All right, we have all our materials here. So now I think we are about ready to export these out of Blender. I'll hit the A key to select everything, and because it's in its own layer, we can select everything and just get what we want here. And then I'll go to File, Export, FBX. I will choose Selected Objects, and I'll go ahead and this time take it right into the Unity Assets folder. Here we go, right into here, and I'll call this Kitchen Cabinets _L for the left side of the kitchen. There we go, and export. Here in Unity you can see the object already brought in. Let's go ahead and bring the textures in as well. Here in my textures folder I've got a kitchen folder, and here is that color map. I'll drag that in. There it is. All right, let's start bringing these in. I'll drag the cabinets into the hierarchy, and there they are. I'll come over here and open up these materials, and I'll just take each one of these to pure white. And now I'll drag this one texture map into the albedo slot of each of these materials. We're going to use the same texture map for each one. There we go. All right, so there we go. We've got our handles, our really nasty countertops, and our cabinets. Now we need to adjust the materials, but before we do, we really ought to bring a light source in here. It's looking kind of dull here, so I will right-click in the hierarchy, go to light, and I'll just go ahead and create a point light, at least for now. And let's bring that out here. I'll bring it up near the ceiling like that. So we kind of have a light source similar to what we might have in the final setup. Now let's work on getting the materials a little better. I think even though this is dirty and kind of nasty, these materials would have a little bit more of a shine to them. So if I choose my kitchen cabinets object and come over here, this is the handles. These are going to have a little bit more of a shine to them, I think. They are metallic. If we zoom in here, we can see the reflection in them. That may be a little much, something like that perhaps. All right, the countertop. It is not metallic, so I'm going to keep this fairly low. But we may be able to see a little bit of reflection in here, just ever so slightly. Like that. Something like that. And then the wood as well, we should probably have a little bit of shine to that. It's not very metallic. And it shouldn't be that shiny. Let me bring it back. Something kind of like that, maybe. Yeah. Now we can also create a normal map for this texture map. Let's go do that in Photoshop and then bring it in. So back here in Photoshop, I'm going to go ahead and select all of these and create a group. I'll call this group Originals. And then I'll take all of these again and press Alt and click and drag outside of that group to duplicate all of these. I'll turn that off. And now I'll collapse all these into one with Control or Command E. And I'll call this Normal. That's our normal map. Now I'll come over here to Filter, 3D, Generate Normal Map. I'll change this to Cube. And here we go. We can kind of see some bump happening in here on the textures. That may be all we need. Let's give it a try. I'll hit OK. Then I'll export this out. And instead of _C, let's call this _N for normal. And now let's take it into Unity. Here it is here in the kitchen folder. I'll bring that in. Let's select our kitchen cabinets and drag this into the normal map for each of these. If we think we need it, let me hit Fix Now here. So there's the cabinets. Countertop, I'll go ahead and put it in the countertop. I don't think I'll put it in the cabinet handles material. I don't think we need it there. So you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little bit of a bump happening on these, which is what we want. That's good. All right, so I'm going to hit the play button. And let's go into the kitchen and see how it looks. Oh yeah, wow. Those are nasty. All right. So there we have our kitchen cabinets. Now, before the next video, I'm going to go ahead and finish up the cabinets here in the kitchen, add a few other things like the sink and the stove. I'm also going to add a few other assets around the apartment. I've got a weight bench I need to put in here. I'm going to put the bathroom in and maybe a couple of the doors and some other things. So in the next video, I just want to talk again about Vertex Paint and Color ID in Substance Painter, as opposed to breaking up the parts of the model into different materials. So if you're bringing the model directly into Unity, you're going to need separate materials that you can work with. However, if you use something like Substance Painter, you can give that one object all one material and break it up by Vertex Paint. We've seen that before. I just want to show you as it's applied to a model that's a little bit more complex. So we'll do that coming up next.